This is Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Here are your hosts, Dr. Tim Slekar and Dr. Johnny Lupinacci, educated educators talking education.
There it is, Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators talking education. Johnny Lupinacci in transit, and actually pretty special week today, though, or this whole week, huh, Jess?
Oh, yeah. But, Tim, where are you?
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody's like, wait a minute, that does not look like where Tim usually is. This is awesome. I am at the State Street studio. Yes, Civic Media headquarters. I'm at the, what do they say, the mothership right now? So yeah. I'm in town. I'm in Madison. And anybody who's listening goes, well, where are you normally? Well, in case you haven't paid close attention, I typically do the show from Ohio in my home studio. Jess produces out of Waukesha. Johnny Lupinacci is in the state of Washington outside of Spokane. And it all comes together through Civic Media every night of the week. Tonight, though, I'm here in Madison and going to be here through Wednesday's show because, Jess, we have a great little event here in Madison, Wisconsin tomorrow and Wednesday, the Wisconsin Public Education Network Big Summit. Everybody in the area, it's Wisconsin now, it's in Madison, but I am here to actually you say cover? I mean, people, I forget this whole thing. Are we really media? Or are we just interviews? Are we talk show hosts? We're here, though, because they're going to be talking everything public education in Wisconsin at this conference. Lots of who's who in the Wisconsin public education circles. And so we're going to be there. And Jess, you and I are going to get to meet for the first time in person tomorrow, right?
I'm so excited. Oh, my goodness.
People are saying, like, wait, didn't that happen before? Well, no, it was actually. So here's the story. This is the great thing about this. So having done the show all those times from Ohio, people will remember when we came into town April 30th, Johnny Lupinacci and I, that was the very first time Johnny and I had ever met. And he had started doing the show with me in 2020 during the COVID outbreak. We hadn't met each other. We had done it on Zoom to begin with and then on StreamYard for 4 years. And we finally got to meet each other when we came into town to announce our new sponsor, Minocqua Brewing Company. In fact, Minocqua Brewing Company is they are a sponsor of Busted Pencils. We love them. In fact, just tonight after the show, I'm going to run up there. If anybody's listening in the Madison area wants to check it out, I'm going to head up to the Minocqua Brewing Tap Room in Madison because they are the most awesome supporters of public education. They sued the state of Wisconsin to go after that voucher program. They are making Wisconsin great again, one beer at a time. Check out MinocquaBrewingCompany.com to see where you can buy their progressive beer. So, yeah, Jess, that was when Johnny and I got to meet for the first time because during the Minocqua, the announcement of the sponsorship, we did a live remote from the Minocqua Tap Room. We were there as the first time Johnny and I had met. And so now it is so great to be back in Madison. People are like, well, wait a minute. If you're in Ohio, what's your connection to Wisconsin? From 2013 to 2020, I was the dean of the School of Education at Edgewood College in Madison. And actually, this is where Busted Pencils got its start. And so after the pandemic and a relocation that was required because of the pandemic, I kept doing Busted Pencils. So
this is a bit of a homecoming for you,
yeah,
Tim.
It's a weird homecoming. In fact, it's so weird, or maybe not. I'm literally staying next door to the house that my family and I lived in when we lived here in Madison because my great, awesome next door neighbors who we got to be, very close with over those years that we lived there, they were like, hey, when you're in town, you could stay with us. They have an accommodation, used to be an Airbnb. They don't run it as an Airbnb anymore. And so when Johnny and I came in April, they let us stay there. So it was, coming back after 4 years, staying next door to what used to be my house. That's kind of a weird feeling.
Yeah, I imagine.
It's like I can walk over there and walk. Oh, no, I can't. That's not my house anymore. Oh,
See if they change the locks.
yeah. Oh, I wonder. I should have brought my key. I'm like, sorry, I just wanted to see if my key still works. That wouldn't have gone off so well. But
Just
Johnny and
wanted
I,
to check that stash that I left in the third bedroom.
I wonder if they dug up that coffee can of freshly minted 20s that, no, don't, and anybody who's like, I know where he used to live, I'm going to dig up his backyard. No, don't do that. And plus, it's not my backyard anymore, so I don't know what would happen to you if you did that. But so Johnny and I stayed there at my old next door neighbors. And so I am back, drove in. So flew from Columbus this morning to Chicago. Chicago, got a rental car, drove up to Madison, checked in to my accommodations, drove up to the State Street studio. Jess and I had our little Google Meet that we normally do before the show. And Jess, here I am in studio, in the State Street studio in Madison, doing the live Busted Pencils. And yes, we will be talking everything Wisconsin Public Education Network Summit. But for now, Jess, coming off of, we have to keep talking about it. People are like, are we going to move on? I don't think we should move on just yet. The excitement around what has been happening politically. And if you've been living under a rock, well, then we're here to let you know that President Biden is not going to run for re-election in the 2024 election. He announced that he's going to pass the torch. He's going to step out of the race. And he gave his endorsement to Kamala Harris. And over that time, it seems like there's been a pretty good coalescing around saying, I think we're all going to get on board with Kamala Harris. Although it still has to go to the convention, as we pointed out. It was when we did our little civics lesson with you all a couple days ago, last week that was.
Couple weeks, couple years.
I know, it's
decades.
like, whoa, when was that? It was just the
Anyone
other day.
who decided to take a little bit of a media break for the past week, oh boy, welcome back.
Welcome back for sure. But we're still talking about this because I got to tell you, I was telling Jess on our pre-show little talk that my drive up here from Chicago, I listened to quite a few podcasts. And during that time, I am absolutely amazed at how much there is a conversation still going on about people being excited. I wanted to say, was it unique that you, Jess, Johnny, and I were all just like, whoa, this is really cool. I didn't think it was going to be, or I was going to be. I remember Johnny Lupinacci thinking, and in fact saying very, very, out loud and saying, like, I was glad to see President Biden pass the torch. I didn't realize how excited I would feel now that it has happened. And so Johnny was there, and I want to say I was listening to a podcast today, a national host who actually had the very same kind of take of going like, I was absolutely 100% in favor of Joe Biden passing the torch. Didn't realize though that when he did that and made the announcement, how exciting and this lifting. And I keep hearing this now after, watching the news all weekend across multiple voices, multiple ages, where people are saying, this feels uniquely energizing. Just thoughts.
Absolutely. Everyone that I've talked to as well has just been remarking on how exhilarating it has been over these past couple days, which have felt like weeks and maybe months, to have this change in the presidential race. It's like we didn't realize that we were all holding our breath. And then all of a sudden we just let it out.
Yeah, we were holding our breath because it was like, it was a lack of excitement for President Biden's candidacy. It just was. It wasn't a feeling of going, again, if you're a supporter of the Democrats, or in this point, if you felt like you were voting for anybody but Trump, but there was no
Right.
excitement. There was no, I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to get out there. I can't wait to be a part of something. I can't wait to go out. That's all changed.
Yeah, it went from being, I'm anti-Trump, and, this is what we have to do. We have to organize to make sure that Trump doesn't get reelected. We have to make sure that the policies that we support have a chance of being passed. There wasn't really the sense of like, ooh, this is our candidate, and we're so excited about what this candidate is bringing, and we're so excited about the potential changes that we could be having in this country. It was all this matter of, we can't let this one back in.
Right.
And now it's different.
It's totally different. It's like, well, of course we still can't let that one back in, but now it's like, and of course we've got this energizing feeling around this what seems to be is going to be the candidate Kamala Harris. And wow, all of a sudden the script that has been flipped on the old white guy scenario, where we originally had two old white guys. I was listening to commentary today of saying, in that debate between former President Trump and President Biden, what really came across was this sense of going, wow, President Biden seems really old, and President Trump seemed like this kind of, hip dude who was just there, kind of bringing it. And now,
well, I don't know if anyone was ever.
I don't know. I think it was just the whole idea. It was like, well, he's more alive than Biden seemed, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But
I'll meet you there.
But there was, there was like, okay, he's definitely, now all of a sudden, he's the old guy. He's the guy who speaks and just kind of says whatever, who knows what he's going to say. All of a sudden now you've got Kamala Harris, 59 years old, minority woman, coming
energetic
at this,
speaker,
energetic, and in fact, living. I love this. JD Vance's "The Childless Cat Ladies" comment now is just coming to be. I think we talked about this last week. Hillary Clinton's, the basket of deplorables which killed her.
Yeah.
The fact that JD Vance now, childless cat ladies or cat people. I think that's going to be the one.
Cat ladies, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be one that sticks with him. And you know what? And Johnny Lupinacci, he will be joining us again on Thursday. So because Jess and our special assignment, Wisconsin Public Education Network, we're going to be highlighting that some more through the middle of this show. When we come back, though, Jess, we got to talk about these vice presidential potential possibilities, because it keeps up and down. You think one's in charge and one the other. In fact, 855-752-4842. We want to hear who you're thinking who should be the next vice president. Stay tuned.
Until this sky no longer blue, we bring the dawn overdue. We crawl, and we crawl, and we crawl all over you.
Do you want the audio from Kamala's speech in Milwaukee, where she announced that she had enough delegates? And the crowd just gets really excited.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be a good one to come back in.
We'll
The
cue that up.
Is that the Camergy, like the Kenergy?
Yeah.
I love that. Can you feel the Camergy?
Okay, that's about an 18-second clip,
Okay.
including.
I was thinking about that. We
years.
talked about Johnny real quick, but then never finished the story about why Johnny's not here.
We can.
Yeah, we just kind of going. It's like, hey, we gave him 3 days off because Jess and Tim are on special assignment.
Yeah. 30.
Yeah, it is just, it's like really strange to hear myself.
I'm hearing myself echoed. I think there's an extra mic on over there that's picking me up again.
Really?
Yeah. It's fine. I've.
Well, actually, my volume was up a bit too much. BustED Pencils fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. The number's 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Make sure you get that number. Hey, you can text in though too if you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us on Twitter. You know, just the Twitter, the X thing, the whole conversation. I was just noticing today, listening, that there are some people who are just saying, you know what, I like Twitter, and I'm just going to refer to it as Twitter, even though I know it's X. Because you hear
I never
those
stopped calling it Twitter.
I didn't either, but it was interesting because I started hearing, people going, well, used to be Twitter, now is X. You'd hear people give, and that doesn't sound natural. That doesn't feel good. And then when you go, as seen on X, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't.
Platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, the platform for none of that works. It's just like, no, I'm sorry, just going to refer to it on Twitter. And so, yeah, on the Civic Media Twitter feed, you can be watching Tim and Jess right now. The Facebook,
some of the bonus content of our
and the bonus content, and the YouTube channel too is always available for people that are out there ready to listen. Okay, before we get into our potential vice presidential discussion, I love this here in my notes, the Camergy that you put in, the Camergy. Kind of like energy for Kamala.
Camergy.
In fact, you have a nice example of some of that Camergy, Jess. Let's hear that.
Let's listen to it, shall we? Yeah.
So, Wisconsin, I am told as of this morning that we have earned the support of enough delegates to secure the Democratic nomination.
Actually, have to turn the fader down just a little, because otherwise it blows up.
So there it is. Wow. So enough delegates. Now people are saying, wait, does that mean, okay, it's not over?
Right. Give us the quick civics here. That doesn't mean that she's the formal nominee yet. There's an additional step that we need to get to first, right?
Still have to go through the convention, and the delegates still have to vote, and she still has to formally accept the nomination at the convention. It's just that right now, no one else, though, has also stepped up and said, I'm challenging her. I think if anybody did, that would be silly and kind of stupid. And somebody like, are you saying there are other people out there who couldn't be as good a candidate or better? I'm not saying that at all. That may actually be the case. The reality now, though, here is that would be, to me, when I say this, a distraction, a kind of waste of time. There's 100 days left now.
Yeah.
That energy and excitement, just that you and I say we're feeling, that Johnny says he's feeling. When I hear senior citizens in Pennsylvania being asked how they feel about this, the fact that they're now saying, I didn't realize how kind of weary I was coming into this, and now that President Biden has stepped down, I feel sad because he stepped down. But even seniors are saying how excited they're feeling.
And there's been a lot of energy rallying around Kamala.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy rallying. And right now, it's, you know what? It'd be one thing if people said, there's not the energy there. We don't feel it. Maybe we should have a primary. But there's nothing around right now saying that actually a primary would be distracting. It would take away that energy. And I'm not sure that, quote, the best candidate would come out of a primary at this point, because the best candidate feels like Kamala Harris right now. And I would say the feels like is because there is that energy. So when you hear, whether it's podcasters, national broadcasters, just Tim and Johnny talking about an excitement, we're not saying that we were 100% in the Kamala Harris before this happened. We were 100% in President Biden. Please pass the torch. Please pass the torch. Please, please, please.
But who is going to be on the receiving end of that torch? We weren't, we weren't necessarily even talking about it and putting up specific names. And I think going into, this, oh goodness, it's only been like 8 days. Wow. I, coming into it, was saying, I want an open convention. I want people to campaign. And I remember in the immediate day after, as the endorsements were rolling in, going, oh man, everyone's falling in line behind Kamala, I'm kind of a little disappointed almost. And that feeling is gone.
It's gone.
Completely gone.
I will agree with you 100%. There was me too, a little bit going, it's like, oh man, I wanted a competition, but I'm
Right.
feeling like, okay, here, yes,
Well,
I'm
Hakeem
on board.
Jeffries and Chuck Schumer were saying we are not going to endorse Kamala Harris. We are going to wait until the nomination or until the convention in order to give that endorsement. I'm like, yeah, open convention. And then, the next day they had formally endorsed. And I had that momentary feeling of like weren't we gonna do this differently? Weren't
Right.
we gonna not do the coronation thing? I remember even saying that in our episode that we did last Monday. And my dad texted into that show saying it will be a coronation. And we talked about it, and I was like, I don't know. I want it to be more democratic. I want it to be more of that democracy in action where everyone gets their voice in and we actually have a chance to vote for these candidates. And then people did vote with their voices and with
Yes.
their energy.
I was gonna say it's like that energy thing. My wife is always talking to me too, like I need to get in the right energies because if you really are, you can feel them. They work wonders. The universe is an energetic place. I feel this one. You're right. There's an energy here. Now there's 100 days to go. Okay. And yes, anything can happen. But right now, just the sense of feeling like, as I said, I want to do more now than just express my support and my energetic kind of feeling about this. I don't know what that is. I know one of the
I'm
things
ready
what
to
we are
knock
doing.
doors.
Well, we Jess, we are doing this. It's Busted Pencils Fully Leaded Education Talk, educated educators talking education, and we have been putting out there a pretty big effort to not yell at people about what they should or shouldn't do, but to express our excitement and explain how our feelings went from where they were with this kind of despair that, oh my God, I'm going to have to vote for
Right.
President Biden to, oh, wow, maybe he's going to step. Oh, he has to step. And now, so we are giving some energy to the conversation. We said, we know that the Biden or the Kamala Harris team, are paying attention to Busted Pencils because they want
Absolutely. They're
to
listening on the
they
app.
want to know when it comes to public education where the wind, and I shouldn't say where the wind is blowing, where this true strong policy about public schools and democracy really is going to be. You got to be listening to Busted Pencils. We know they're going to be listening to us, and in fact, we're going to be talking about the vice presidential the potentials, because Kamala Harris is the vice president now, but now that she's the presumptive nominee, and in fact has already, grabbed the delegates from what we understand, we're now kind of saying, well, who's going to be that vice president? And this, Jess, as I was saying last week to you and Johnny, there's an opportunity, I think, here to bring public education on the radar.
Absolutely.
In fact, 855-752-4842. Give us a call. We want to hear what's on your radar. Oh, it just feels different being here.
Different strange, different night.
It feels good because before I went home or moved to Ohio, one of the things that it was Mad Radio at the time is that I did the show from the the Madison studios live all through COVID, and I really got used to coming into studio, having that. And it was interesting when I started doing it from home of kind of like, oh, this feels kind of weird. I've gotten really used to now too, because I've turned my home office into, pretty close to a real studio as I can. So that it feels that way. But now being here though, there's a reminder of how good it feels to be in a studio. And I tell you what, though, too, this State Street studio, Jess, you're gonna love it, because the whole idea here that I'm sitting here now, literally looking out on the heart of Madison, the city of Madison right now. Yeah, it's
I'm
like, okay,
excited.
how cool is this? And yeah, anybody out there, if you're walking by, wave. We see you. Up in the State Street studio right now.
We had some Shaw fans walking by the studio earlier. I took some pictures with our Shaw sign.
Nice. Nice. Well, so the studio in Madison is kind of at a legendary spot, because Comedy on State, which is the comedy club in Madison, is the Civic Media Studios is above where the comedy club is. And so people in the Madison area already have Comedy on State as kind of like, this point of reference that they know. And so now the idea that Civic Media is also located at the same location as Comedy on State, in fact, I kind of like this spot better, because Comedy on State is actually downstairs. You don't get to look out. But then again, when you're at Comedy on State, you're listening to comedians. It's not about the area. Anyway, enough with my excitement.
It's bonus content, Tim.
It is bonus content. And, as we said, now, so coming in, now, what did you think of the Venn diagram of the potential vice presidential candidates? Because during the pre-show, you and I both kind of went, well, seems like Waltz is out, at least according to the person who did this Venn diagram. He is
Whitmer too.
Yeah, and he, yeah, I guess because she can't meet any Midwest white guy category.
Well, she's given her. She does not want it.
Right. She doesn't want it.
All right, I got a screen call.
Okay.
We got Joanne on the line.
Nice.
Oh, she's Madison. I wonder if she'll come out and meet us.
That's right, Joanne. Yeah, she's in Madison. Cool. Coolio.
Looking forward to going to the Monaco Brewing Tap Room.
Yeah, the Monaco Brewing. The only thing, it's starting to I don't know if it's bothering me, but boy, the Shapiro has a great kind of national fanfare. And
1 minute.
we got to do our best to kind of stamp that down. Sorry, dude. You don't do public schools justice, man. And to me,
I hear you.
I know. That's the reason go ahead.
And, ultimately, I think that he prioritizes public schools over vouchers.
Oh, sure.
It's, Johnny was talking about, we probably can't do so much wrong with any pick.
Right. No. But this is the pushing.
But this is the push part, yeah.
This is the pushing. We're allowed to be pushers.
We are.
As
long as we're pushing forward.
As long as we're pushing forward, as long as we're pushing a vision, as long as we're pushing an agenda of hope. I love that.
Yeah.
So Joanne is on the line?
Yep.
Cool. I had to let those lyrics come in first. I love that. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. Does Busted Pencils have a theme song? Well, we do have a theme song, but do we have a theme band? Well, we like all the punk rock, but we got to be honest. It's Rise Against. People are like, what does Rise Against have to do with Busted Pencils? Hey, you listen to the opening show, Re-Education Through Labor. We got to give them the props. Love Tim Mickelrath. In fact, was on the Busted Pencils podcast. We'll have to bring some of that recording and just kind of highlight some of that, because he talked about particularly when he learned in school and how that is connected to punk rock. And in fact, that's why I love it. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators talking education. Tim and Jess right now. Johnny on a 3-day hiatus because Tim and Jess, tonight we're going to be talking about the Wisconsin Public Education Network Summit here in Madison. Tuesday and Wednesday we'll be covering. Tuesday and Wednesday, the conference, or the summit. Let's call it a summit. And so we'll bring Johnny back on Thursday, let him have a little bit of time with the family. Appreciate that when we get those opportunities. 855-752-4842. Going to talk about vice president potentials with Joanne from Madison. Joanne, what's happening, our friend?
A great show. I'm just going to pivot from your main question. There's so many great options with Mark Kelly and Josh Shapiro and all that for a VP. I would really like to start a tradition that the candidates be asked what individual will be chosen as the Secretary of Education. I mean, that would tell a lot about where they think they are going in terms of education. It should be a question in the debates. I know ABC is going to be sponsoring the next debates if former President Trump decides to agree to that again. And definitely with the knowledge that Ms. Harris has, Vice President Harris has, in terms of higher education, that she would be interested in and knowledgeable of the various issues and all of that. And her choice, wherever it would go, if she'd choose the current individual, Miguel Carnero, to stay on, or have another choice. That would be an interesting discussion, and I think it would be worthy of a question. I'm going to be emailing ABC News in a few minutes. I think it would be a nice way to get them started, because the last debate didn't have a question on education. So,
Joanne,
again, great show. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joanne. Love that call. Love that suggestion. In fact, Jess, I was actually thinking that last week a couple times when we were talking about the vice president, that maybe we'll say we'll come back to this, but maybe too much emphasis on who should or shouldn't be the vice president based on public education maybe is going to take us potentially in the wrong. I don't know if it's going to take us in the wrong direction. Maybe it's a waste of
a direction. I don't
it
think
takes us a direction, but but shouldn't we really be talking about the pick of Vice President Harris, Democratic nominee for president? Who is she thinking about as Secretary of Education? And if we knew who that was, or maybe, Jess, if we did our civic responsibility that we typically like to do here on Busted Pencils, maybe we should start putting out who the Busted Pencils audience thinks should be a candidate to be considered to be nominated as the Secretary of Education.
I'm going to put you way on the spot. Do you have any picks off the top of your head?
I know these two dudes who do this education talk show.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah,
oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, they've spent 25 to 35 years plus in education and public education, talking education, being passionate about public education.
Are they fully leaded?
They're fully leaded. They are educated educators who love to talk education. I think those two guys, I think that's Lupinacci and Slekar are their names. I think they wouldn't be bad kind of picks to get the ball in the conversation moving.
Yeah. But I mean,
Other
you
than
couldn't accept that role.
Well, I mean, then I'd have to give up. Then I'd have to give up my my nightly responsibility here of promoting public education on the Civic Media Network. Which, again, would I want to lose the ability to connect with so many people across the country the way I do right here? You know what though, when it comes
in the world,
I think who would I pick? I can tell you this. There have been, and this is where Democrats have lost a lot of public education support starting in 2000 with the president. Well, Clinton himself, but then President Obama. It has not been a pleasant ride, whether Republicans or Democrats, when it came to Secretary of Education. In fact, Rod Page, who was President Bush's choice, then I forget who they were followed by, but then when President Obama took over, Arnie Duncan was the candidate for the Democrats. And I got to tell you, Jess, it didn't really matter if there was a Republican or a Democrat in charge of the president, because the Secretary of Education choice for both parties was very much a supporter of high stakes testing, of merit pay for teachers based on test scores.
No.
Yeah, huge supporters of No Child Left Behind, Race to the Top. In fact, Race to the Top, as a lot of us said, was actually No Child Left Behind on steroids. And that came out of the Obama administration. Arnie Duncan, who, again, had no real public school experience other than he had been the CEO of the Chicago public school system without any qualifications except that he was a basketball friend of President Obama's. Came in, and in fact, when I was doing some of my most earnest advocacy work, occupying the Department of Education 2011, 2012, 2013, we were occupying in front of the Department of Education that was occupied at that time by Arnie Duncan and Democrats. And in fact, we had our biggest protests out there for a Democratic Secretary of Education. So could it be that maybe what Joanne's saying, could there be more excitement even in announcing a truly pro-public schools Secretary of Education that could really get that energy going for public school advocates? And maybe potentially, we're still going to talk about them, but maybe even to the point where that these potential vice presidential candidates really don't matter, because who Kamala Harris chooses to be in the role of Secretary of Education, that could potentially really be a motivator for public school voters. I don't know, Jess, that's just my thought. Oh, there it is. Jess, what was that?
Oh, that was the bell.
The bell? Democracy in Action bell. Yes,
That's
it
the
was.
bell, the one that rings true every single day here on Busted Pencils, Fully Leaded Education Talk, where we highlight a moment of democracy in action.
And you got one for today, right?
I do, in fact.
Okay.
So today, the core democratic value that we are highlighting is patriotism. Now, this is one that we highlighted last week, Monday, as well, when President Biden made the choice to step down from his re-election campaign. Today, I'm highlighting patriotism again because all of this energy that everyone has had, this commitment to the democratic process, has been so invigorating, so exhilarating, and it deserves a moment of recognition here on Busted Pencils. So today, democracy in action is the energy, the commitment that there is right now to seeing democracy fulfilled.
Love that. So that the energy, and boy, if you're out there then with that energy, you are one of the democracy in action people. 855-752-4842 is the number to give us a call if you want to jump in. Talking about the potential, caller Joanne gave us a way to think about this. Would Kamala Harris potentially want to give us a sense as to who her Secretary of Education choice might be? And if they revealed that, would that energize public school voters? Because I got to tell you that public school voters have not been well served over the past 30 years. In fact, since 1983, A Nation at Risk, it has been a nonstop continued attack, whether Republican or Democrats, on public schools. The idea now coming into 2024, could we potentially have a public schools candidate in that way, meaning Kamala Harris really leaning into and saying, as the Secretary of Education, I'm nominating so-and-so because they are going to absolutely bring the public education supporters out like they have been waiting for over 30 years. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educators talking education. L.A. Tom, our friend, is on the line. L.A. Tom, in fact, you have some thoughts on this Secretary of Education. L.A. Tom, what's happening, our friend?
Hey, buddy. First off, I was thinking maybe, Tim Walz for vice president, but the thing is, he doesn't really help the situation with the electoral votes. But I think he would be a hell of a. He was a public school teacher. He was a geography teacher, a third grade teacher. Tim Walz for the head of the Department of Education, I think, would be a big lift. And it'd be a big lift to people's spirit. And he knows how to talk, and he understands kids. And I think that he would be an excellent choice for the head of the Department of Education.
That
L.A.
resume
Tom,
almost
I
sounds like
love that, but I
yours,
gotta,
Tim.
I gotta ask you though, L.A. Tom, though, what did you think about my first two suggestions, Lupinacci and Slekar?
Oh, I think those are great suggestions, of course. But, I think you guys need to be working on busted pencils and bringing the education to all the people, because every day is a classroom here on busted pencils. What I would say also, Tim, is I want to make sure that you know, and Johnny knows, and all the listeners know that at 5 o'clock, they're going to have the Kamala Harris Zoom call for white dudes. And I would really recommend that you guys go on there so we can break the internet and show that us white guys are not just a bunch of MAGA Trumpers. I think that would be a really, really good idea if people would get on there. So anyway,
And that's 5 o'clock Pacific, so 7
5
p.m. Central,
5 o'clock Pacific. I'm sorry.
Immediately
Yep,
after
5 o'clock
Busted
Pacific.
Pencils.
Immediately after
You
Busted
got
Pencils,
it. You won't
there
miss
it is.
a minute. You won't miss a minute of not missing busted pencils.
L.A. Tom,
Highest priority.
thank you so much for that call. Appreciate it.
Are you sneezing or are you laughing, Tim?
I'm going to cough, and I don't know where my mute button is on this here. So give me a second.
New technology.
There, I'm better. I love that suggestion, L.A. Tom, because I got to point out that when it comes to thinking about who Kamala Harris should choose for vice president, I have really been finding myself in that Walt's position. I don't know. There's just been something the way he's been, as L.A. Tom says, the way he speaks, the power that comes across.
He
just
reminds me of you.
Oh, okay, maybe that's it. He's energizing and he's so good. And in fact, his conversation about public schools and the vouchers and knowing how to put that, and in fact, rural schools, I think L.A. Tom may have helped me by saying, okay, in fact, now some of these other potentials for vice president, now I think I can really lean into a couple of them. I'm still going to hold out on one. Yeah, you all know who it is. Wait, though. Stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you who I think it should be, not who it shouldn't be. See, it says my mic is muted on StreamYard, so I don't think that I can actually mute my mic.
I don't know.
And so I had this like ridiculous cough that just wanted to erupt from my lungs.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what do I do with that? So yeah, no, I wasn't laughing. I was just like, oh, cough, stay down, stay down. So anybody watching the live feed, yeah, the challenges of hosting sometimes when you don't know where the mute button is. Hey, at least it's, if my dad pointed out, if anybody's watching, though, coughing is not as bad as being
at least-
seen on cameras picking your nose.
So you're not digging for gold.
I wasn't digging for gold. And actually, my dad called me today. He said he's going to be listening. So, yeah, Dad, I shared that story about how you said that when you were watching on video, you saw me when Johnny went into one of his, not eulogies, into one of his very strong soliloquies. Dad, you pointed out that you saw me doing something with my finger. Ugh. No, we will not do that anymore. There it is. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. The number's 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, live from the State Street Studios, Civic Media, the mothership. Yes, I am here. I am in town. Why? Because tomorrow and Wednesday, the Wisconsin Public Education Network Summit here in Madison is going to be held. All kinds of conversation about public education in the entire state of Wisconsin. A lot of who's who are here. And in fact, I know two who's, Jess and Tim, who are going to be there. In fact, if you're heading to the summit tomorrow, look for us. We're going to be there. We're looking, we want to talk to people. We're going to have some equipment to do some spot interviews that we can save and potentially won't be live. So don't worry. We can say we can erase, but we want to talk to you. Come and find us wherever we are. We're going to be dropping into different sessions tomorrow. In fact, we'll do a little bit more.
We'll be all over.
We'll be all over, a little bit of promotion, but I do want to finish this vice presidential because LA Tom.
Who do you want? You've told
I know
us a little
LA
bit about
Tom
who you're
just
hesitant on.
gave me the ability to say that I see the strategic of Kelly from Arizona. Now that I can let go of Waltz, and in fact say Tim Waltz is really a great Secretary of Education nominee, I can now see that Kelly, from the math standpoint in Arizona, being able to get Arizona, which it is a swing state. It's not Michigan.
Absolutely.
It's not Pennsylvania, but it is a huge state that is right there on the lines. And this is a guy that I haven't heard anybody say, I hate that guy. I don't like that guy. He's an astronaut. His wife was a victim of gun violence, horrendous gun violence. Gabby Giffords. Man, I see the wisdom in a Mark Kelly vice presidential pick. I still like it. Okay, good. So you see, I still see Bashir and Cooper. I think they're strong potentials. But man.
But Arizona is so key. Mean, do you remember the sleepless days of certifying the Arizona votes? Oh my goodness. Those 11 electoral votes are going to be so critical. And Arizona is such a deeply purple state that the smallest thing can really tip the scales. And a vice presidential candidate is no small thing.
Here's what's interesting. So I put up this I didn't put it up there, but I sent it to you, Jess, this, Venn diagram with three circles. And if anybody has ever seen a 3-circle Venn diagram, it means it's got lots of intersections, and it had Waltz in the middle. But, the top circle is moderate white guy vibes of which in that circle was Kelly, Bashir,
Kelly
Cooper,
alone.
Waltz, and Shapiro. Kelly alone got the moderate white guy.
Moderate white guy vibes.
White
You didn't get the other circles of top tier TV skills or doesn't alienate any part of the coalition. So,
but
I don't know who he alienates.
Yeah,
so.
I was going to say on that one, I'm not sure why he didn't get the doesn't alienate, because I said I've never heard anybody ever saying that astronaut whose wife went through a horrible tragedy, I don't like. No, I've never. In fact,
I've heard I don't know about Mark Kelly.
Yeah, I don't know
but
about
I've never heard I don't like Mark Kelly.
Never heard it. And what I heard today, though, too, I'm going to say, listening to a podcast, Kara Swisher on the Pivot podcast, a very big national voice, really pointed out how strong she sees him. And in fact, I knew this too. He's an identical twin. I'm married to an identical twin. Got to say that. Just put it out there. Mom Michelle. People have heard Mom Michelle. She's been on the show too before. But he is an identical twin. And I guess, according to Kara Swisher, which is great, is you've got the ability to be in two places as a candidate. Did that ever happen to Tim when he was dating his wife? Sometimes I had to look closely, early on.
Okay.
Early on, not now.
It was
I got to point out, though, too, Shapiro goes in the white guy, top tier TV skills, doesn't alienate. I think he
alienates a large.
I think he alienates, and I hate to. From a public school standpoint, the fact that he was in favor of vouchers in Pennsylvania, and people have been listening to Busted Pencils know that's where I'm going to come down and go, sorry, I can't have Josh Shapiro, because I think he loses public schools. I got to tell you, though, L.A. Tom's strategy there of elevating Tim Walz as Secretary of Education maybe makes me even consider that a Shapiro nomination, if it mathematically makes Pennsylvania
if it brings
go,
those 19 electoral votes,
I might let him go on and go forward and be considered. So Josh Shapiro, right now, if you really want to be considered, I know you're listening to Busted Pencils, what you want to do right now. Yeah, you're on your Civic Media app, what you need to download. Your homework now is to get the Harris campaign to get behind this Walz Secretary of Education, the L.A. Tom kind of pivot there, because, man, that makes it all work for me. I got to point out, though, I hate one of the other reasons, though, I've heard for people saying, I don't know if Josh Shapiro, because and I hate when people say this, is the country ready for a woman of color and a Jewish white guy?
Vice president. Yeah. Yes. And as a Jewish person, I have that fear. That's
okay.
It's something that I'm concerned about, that I worry constantly about, will there be bigotry involved? And we know that in America there will be. I don't think that that's a disqualifying factor.
Yeah, and you hate to admit it. I think that's the part that I hate about this is that I hate to admit that it could be a factor, and I can't take a loss to Trump right now.
Yeah.
And so, although winning Pennsylvania would be huge, I don't know. Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators talking education. Gotta thank you all for listening. L.A. Tom, caller Joanne, love it when you guys call in. Hey,
Tim,
and guess what, Jess? You know where I'm headed? I'm headed to the Minocqua Brewing
tomorrow.
I'm heading up to the tap room right now because I love our sponsor, Minocqua Brewing Company. They make Wisconsin great again, one beer at a time. Anybody check me out if you want to go up there. I'll be up there in a little bit. It's Busted Pencils, fully leaded. Jess, can't wait to meet you in person.
I'm going to give you the biggest hug.
Yes, see you tomorrow, Jess. See you tomorrow.